We got a double prediction video for you here on George Wrighster's College Football Podcast. We got the Ohio State Buckeyes heading out to Montlake to take on the Washington Huskies. And we got to talk about the USC Trojans, red hot right now, going to take on the Illinois Fighting Illini, who just got drubbed by Indiana last week. And we got so much to talk about, so much to break down. I'm George Wrighster, former NFL player, college football analyst for the CW. We're going to be breaking down the coaches, the weather, the teams, the quarterbacks, and everything in between. Make sure that you like, subscribe, get notifications, and tell a friend and be one of us. The number one team in all the land, the Ohio State Buckeyes, travel up to Montlake to take on the Washington Huskies, and Ohio State is favored by 9.5 points in this game. This game is going to take place 12:30 p.m. Pacific, 3:30 Eastern, CBS Paramount Plus. We got Ryan Day versus Jed Fisch. Here, we have a coach that people claim was born on third base versus a coach that spent 2 decades as a pinch runner before he finally gotten it back. Now, the truth is that by this point, Ryan Day owns every single aspect of what goes on at Ohio State. His fingerprints are on the offense. His OC hire last year is the reason he's a national champion in terms of Chip Kelly. And he moved on from Jim Knowles in favor of bringing in former Patriots and assistant and the Detroit Lions head coach Matt Patricia. It is all the proof that you need that the defense is his, the offense is his, and not, him living in the ghost of Urban Meyer's shadow or anything like that. Because Day is the one who influenced the quarterback switch from Kyle McCord to Will Howard, and he's the one that went out and got Julian Sayin after Nick Saban retired. And he's about to have his second full recruiting cycle come and go. And some people still act like he's a babysitter. Now, Ryan Day has only had one true road game in the Pacific time zone under his belt, and that was last year's 32-31 loss to Oregon. So that's really the only thing that we have yet to see out of Ryan Day besides not beating Michigan since the COVID lockdown has ended. But now on the Washington side, you got Jed Fisch, because he's doing a fairly good job at easing the sting of losing Kalen DeBoer after playing in the national championship just a year and a half ago. And Fisch, he is undefeated at home so far, and he just got the Apple Cup back. And the players that he brought in from Arizona, as well as his recruits out of high school, are making a massive impact. 5 of the top 6 receivers this year and all 4 rushing leaders were brought in by Fisch. And then the quarterback, who I like a lot, Demond Williams, he moved his commitment from Arizona to Washington to come to Seattle with Fisch as well. Then you got Denzel Boston, who's one of the only impact holdovers from Kalen DeBoer, and he has been a borderline star this year and a potential first-round pick. Now, Fisch is more involved in play calling than Ryan Day is, but both have elevated internal offensive coordinators last year, and they have made outside hires of talented defensive coordinators who are coming off failed previous experiments, and most importantly, they both have a decent amount of resources at their disposal to build a roster. That was the coaches. Now let's look at the quarterbacks, because we got Julian Sayin versus Demond Williams. And I have talked about Julian Sayin before, a 5-star coming out of high school, only 1 interception every 90 pass attempts in his last 2 years at Carlsbad, and he committed to Alabama, enrolled early, and, the interest was in him in the portal after Nick Saban retired, and he was at Ohio State last year as a backup for the Buckeyes national championship run. And after 2 years, Sayin has now been thrown to the Wolves. And that's been a problem for the Wolves because he has 800 yards on 79% completions and 8 touchdowns in 3 games. Now, he has turned the ball over a few times, but it's likely only a matter of time before he gets back to his old ways of protecting the football. Because when you watch Julian Sayin play, because I got a chance to watch him play in high school, he's not a kid that is going to wow you with his physical skills or the most amazing arm that you ever seen in your life. But the kid is consistent, he is accurate, and he makes good decisions. Those are winning traits. They may not be the traits that wow you, but they are winning traits. And then you go on the other side for UW, you got Demond Williams. because he is somebody who didn't get the accolades coming out of high school when he probably should have. Because he outperformed Malachi Nelson in a head-to-head game, who went over to USC first. And he did the same thing to Dylan Raiola, not once, but twice. But the problem is he's a short king. He's under 6 feet tall. So evaluators gave him the same, star rating that they gave Thomas Castellanos coming out of high school. And here we are 2 years later, and DeMond is a true sophomore, 14 career touchdowns to 1 interception, and over 500 yards rushing. Because the kid is a really good athlete, but he's rarely playing off schedule or out of control. Because his first start last year was against Oregon. He got sacked 10 times, and you know what? He still wasn't out there making bad decisions. And he likes the short passes that allow his receivers to make plays. And he protects himself on runs. Now, he runs a decent amount, but he's not a crash test dummy out there that's out there taking big hits. Because he's willing to nickel and dime and get a defense into a state of boredom and then take the kill shot downfield. But the question is, will his size play a negative factor against Big Ten defenses? We are going to find out on Saturday. Let's look at the Ohio State offense versus the Washington defense. New Washington defensive coordinator, Ryan Walters. He is brought in to run this Washington defense after a disastrous run as Purdue's head coach. But before that, he had Illinois running one of the most suffocating defenses in the entire country. And 3 games into his tenure with the Huskies, it is clear that there are some of those holes on defense, but there is a lot of promise going on Montlake. It will be interesting to see how Washington's run defense, which is coming off a game where they allowed less than 1 yard per carry to Washington State, holds up against an Ohio State offensive line that averages 6'5", 315 pounds. Now, when Colorado State, when they came out for their first drive of the season, they ran right at Washington, and they put together 46 yards on the ground and a touchdown. But since that drive, Washington has given up 1.9 yards per carry. But that number is not going to dissuade Brian Hartline and Ohio State from trying to impose their will. Now, Washington, they do. On the outside, they have 2 very tall corners. These are giant corners, 6'4". Both of them, Ephesians Prysock, Alameda High School from down here, and you got Tacario Davis. Now, they also have a hybrid safety linebacker named Alex McLaughlin, and this kid is elite in pass coverage as well. So the Huskies, they are an opportunistic defense, and they will surrender points at times trying to take big risks and secure turnovers. How is that going to work against Ohio State's offense? Their wide receivers, Carnell, Tate, and Jerimiah Smith, they are not going to be held in check by anybody. Well, except Texas last year. But maybe not having a clear physical advantage will dissuade Julian Sayin from making a couple of throws that he would otherwise let loose and be like, my guys are better than those guys. They're bigger. And I believe that Ohio State's best shot on the road at Montlake is to run a heavy dose of C.J. Donaldson, James Peoples, and Bo Jackson. Yeah, that's right, Bo Jackson. His real name is Lamar, but so either way you spin it, he shares the name of a unicorn athlete. Now let's look at Washington's offense versus Ohio State's defense. Washington running back Jonah Coleman, he is a future NFL draft pick and a high one at that. And the kid had a lot of success in the Pac-12. And then when Washington went into the Big Ten, those defenses didn't stand a chance either, because he played at that same high level against everybody except the 2 top defenses that he faced, which were Penn State and Oregon, which were 2 of the better defenses in the country. He had 22 carries for 27 yards, and those teams were down, so they were in in pass heavy scripts too. So if there's any doubt about Coleman, it's because he hasn't shown out against the best of the best. But a lot of that had to do with the team and the script. But even if he did not look good against them, he did against Indiana and Iowa last year. Now, Ohio State, they are getting the best version of Matt Patricia in terms of this year so far as their DC. And it certainly helps to have Jermaine Matthews, Jalen McClain, Lorenzo Styles, and Caleb Downs in the defensive backfield. And as I have said before, DeMond Williams, he isn't going to put the ball at risk. So it is possible that this group just dissuades him into checkdowns and short scrambles. Now you got Arvell Reese and Caden Curry, because they have multiple sacks for the Buckeyes as well. And as long as they're disciplined, they'll probably get a couple of more on Saturday. But if they get over their skis, if they overshoot or over pursue or don't contain, then Williams could make big plays for them. Now let's look at the X factors, because Ohio State has a defensive lineman that is due to break out, and that is 6'3", 290-pound defensive end, Edric Houston. Now, this is a kid that was one of the top recruits in the country coming out of Georgia, and he anchored the 4x4 team, yes, at 270 pounds. Now, this speed is the exact thing that the Buckeyes defense needs to counter DeMond Williams' quickness and playmaking ability, and he is due for his first sack. Now, on the Washington side, that home field advantage on Montlake, it needs to be felt, because Ohio State fans, they might brush it off because they play in Ann Arbor or other Big Ten stadiums, but they learned last year when they went to Eugene to play Oregon, oh wait, hold on, 60,000 people can actually be louder than 100,000 people because of the acoustics and the energy. And Washington has that sort of juice as well. And the Huskies feed off of it. Now, there is a reason that they rattled off 22 straight at home, and it ain't for games. And if the fans show up and show out, the team will show up and show out. But I am going to take, now I thought about this prediction long and hard. Washington is getting 9.5 points in this game. I am going to take the Huskies plus the 9.5, and something inside me is brewing about potentially picking an upset, but I just keep looking at all of these athletes on Ohio State's defense, and I'm saying, they're going to be able to contain DeMond. They're going to be able to contain DeMond. If Washington can get some early turnovers, they can pull off the upset. Book it. The USC Trojans have their biggest test of the year so far when they travel to Champaign, Illinois to Memorial Stadium, and Big Noon kickoff, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, to face the Illinois Fighting Illini led by Mr. Bret Bielema. This is a very interesting game because Big Ten teams traveling more than 2 time zones, well, 2 time zones or more. In 2024, it was an absolute disaster. So how will this shake out for the USC Trojans? So coach versus coach. We got Lincoln Riley versus Bret Bielema. And if you want to go watch a cool interview with Bret Bielema, go on the Unafraid Show, right? Just click down. It was really good, even almost brought me to tears. So we got these 2 coaches. And on Lincoln Riley's side, he just reached 30 wins at USC. And he is one win away from matching what Clay Helton was able to do in his first 4 seasons. And Riley has managed to ramp up USC's recruiting efforts, and his hire of DeAnton Lynn to coach the defense has also saved USC from getting eaten alive by the Big Ten. And the reason this 4-0 start for USC is so important is that the Trojans have taken a brand hit that almost lost them the benefit of the doubt over the last couple of years, because entering 2025, they were unranked in the AP poll for only the 3rd time since the start of the millennium. Like, this is USC. They always get the benefit of the doubt, but not right now. You got to look at their quarterback situation, because Riley, he missed on Malachi Nelson. He lost out on the recruitment of Julian Lewis and had an average year with Miller Moss at the helm. And because he was at risk of losing his juice as the #1 option for quarterback recruits, top quarterback recruits, but he landed Hussein Longstreet, and the development of Jayden Maiava, who transferred in from UNLV, has got Lincoln some of that good juice back. Now, when you look at games like this against Illinois, they are a real moment of truth for Riley, because are his adjustments setting USC up to compete for Big Ten championships? That's the question. Meanwhile, on the other side, you got Bret Bielema, because he might have just fumbled the Illini's best chance to compete for a Big Ten title ever. I mean, a 63-10 loss to Indiana. Oh, that was going to sting. He's still a very good coach. But the question is, how do you wipe that one from your memory? Because that's the one where the coach is like, listen, we ain't even watching this film, throw it away, or they make you sit through it and you just got to just wear it. Because coupled with the news that their star DB Xavier Scott is likely out for the season, Illinois is at a real inflection point. Can they move from losing their defensive leader and getting beat like they're an FCS directional school? That's the question. Because in my interview with Bret Bielema this past summer, I learned that the cornerstone of his program is being in your brother's corner to pick them up when things look bleak. And the only way to get that taste of that loss out of your mouth is going to go get the program's first win over the Trojans since 1989. That's how. But now let's look at the quarterbacks. You got Luke Altmyer over there at Illinois versus Jayden Maiava over there at USC. Now, did I believe that USC would be 4-0 headed into their game against Illinois? Yes, 100%. They haven't played anybody. Like, Michigan State was the best team that they played, and they have not been able to stop a nosebleed this year. And did I believe that they'd be getting played this good out of their quarterback, Maiava? No turnovers, and leading the entire NCAA in yards per attempt, yards per completion, and passing yards per game? Now, that part, all of that is a little bit of a surprise, but also it's Lincoln Riley's offense. Like, did you think it was going to be bad? This kid came over from UNLV before the 2024 season. And last year, he threw for 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns on 169 pass attempts. Now, he has already passed that yardage total this year in 65 less pass attempts. Now, it helps to have Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane as wide receivers, but he is pushing the ball downfield to the other wide receivers as well. Maiava stands at 6'4", 230. And if he plays like this all year long, he'll go from being a placeholder for his backup Hassan Longstreet to a legitimate NFL prospect. Now, on the other side of things, you got Luke Altmyer, because he spent 2 years getting limited playing time at Ole Miss before coming over to Illinois. And he's in his third year as the Illinois starter. Now, while the Illini, they don't throw the ball, a whole lot, only about 25 times per game. That makes Altmyer judicial and methodical with his throws. And he does some serious damage in this offense. Now, last week, it did not go well against Indiana for Altmyer at all. But even if Illinois was able to move the ball in the running game to complement what Altmyer does in the passing game, they still got torched so badly on defense that it felt like they were just punting on the game altogether. It was bad. Now, Michigan State, they've managed to score 31 points on USC with Aiden Childs only attempting 23 passes. So it's possible that Illinois doesn't even have to stretch or change expectations for Altmyer to score points in this game. Now, let's look at the USC offense versus the Illinois defense. Now, the biggest difference between 2025 USC and previous iterations is the commitment to running the football. They haven't run up against an opponent that is going to put up a lot of resistance yet, but still, they have been committed to it. And USC has already matched the number of 30-plus carry games from last season already, and they've only played 4. And they have had 40 carries in both of their last 2 games. Now, that is something that Lincoln Riley did only once since 2023. Now, the running game helps to set up the deep balls to Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane, but we got to look at Lake McRee, because this kid, their tight end, it has been one of the bigger focal points of Lincoln Riley's offense in a number of years at the tight end position. So that's good to see. I love me some tight ends. Now, on the Illinois side of things, Indiana showed that you can run the ball on Illinois. And both Duke and Indiana showed you that you can throw on Illinois. Now, without Xavier Scott, this is a game that Illinois fans should probably worry about. You have to make Maiava uncomfortable. And how you do that is sell out to stop the running backs Wayman Jordan and Eli Sanders, because the key to this USC offense is the running game. Now, Illinois defensive end, linebacker, outside, Gabe Jacobs, kid has 3.5 sacks so far for Illinois, and he's probably their best bet to be a disruptor. Now, let's look at this Illinois offense versus USC's defense. USC invested heavily in its D-line, and last week, the Trojans' second Big Ten game, the big men up front combined to hold Michigan State to just 112 yards rushing. Considering that Indiana just held Illinois to 2 yards on 20 carries, USC is likely feeling pretty good about their chances. But when you watch the film, USC was able to do a lot of stunts and shifts and slants with their defensive line, which disrupted Michigan State's running game. And Illinois, they need to establish the run with Kaden Feagin and Khalil Valentine, because the play action that Illinois depends on all stems from being able to run the football. So Bret Bielema and his staff are going to be harping on that this week. You got Justin Bowick and Hank Beatty. They are Altmyer's main targets at wide receiver, and they'll be defended by DeCarlos Nicholson and DJ Harvey, Sierra Candy Kid, who draw the task of covering those two talented wide receivers. Now, if you're looking for one USC defender to shine in this game, it is their linebacker, Eric Gentry, 7'10" linebacker with a 9-foot wingspan. It just keeps growing every single week they put him on the telecast. Because he had an injury plague 2024, but the 6'6" small forward linebacker is back to making plays in every single facet. Now let's look at the X factors in this game. USC needs to get and keep control of this game. And to do that, they're going to need to keep the streak of 40-plus carry games going. But they can't forget to give their best offensive player, Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane, opportunities to make some big plays, especially with Xavier Scott unable to cover them. Now, Makai Lemon, he is the type of player that reminds you of the USC glory days. He is exciting, he is consistent, and he's got a little bit of Hollywood in him. Now, for Illinois, you got to embrace the advantage of a 9 a.m. Pacific kickoff and be aggressive in the first quarter on both sides of the ball. Now, whatever you can do to see USC's punter run out on the field, that should be your primary objective. Now, after last week, Illinois needs to get their swag back. They got to over-celebrate any negative plays that they are able to produce or any kind of fumbles they force, because they need that sort of energy that home crowd can give them and give them a boost. Because one of the cool things about Memorial Stadium, it's literally all metal in that joint. So when the fans start banging on there and get loud, it will echo and reverberate. I am going to take Illinois plus the points because they are big underdogs in this game. 6.5 points. I'm going to take them to bounce back and get the outright win as well. I'm George Wrighster. Make sure that you like, subscribe, get notifications, tell a friend about the show, and be one of us.